Society's sold you a lie. Not a small one, not a harmless one, a generational, institutionalized, trillion-dollar lie, dressed up in a cap and gown, handed to you at age 18 with a smile and a handshake. And that lie is this: trading your time for a paycheck is the safest way to build wealth. It is not safe. It is actually, and I mean this mathematically, not emotionally, the riskiest financial strategy a person can commit to in the 21st century. And by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly why. Not because I'm going to tell you to quit your job tomorrow, not because I'm selling you a course, a crypto coin, or a get-rich-quick scheme. I'm going to show you the actual numbers. Cold, hard, unforgiving numbers. And once you see what those numbers are actually doing to your financial future, you will never look at your salary the same way again. Let's start at the very beginning. You're 17 years old, you're decent at school, maybe great at school, your parents are proud of you, your teachers love you, and everyone is telling you the exact same thing. Get good grades, go to a good college, get a good degree, land a good job. And here's the thing. They weren't lying to you because they were evil, they were lying to you because they believed it too. Your parents lived in a different economic era where a single factory job could buy a house, raise 3 kids, and fund a pension. That world is gone, but the advice, it never got the update. So what happens? You take out $35,000, $50,000, $80,000 in student loans. You spend 4 years studying, you graduate, you walk across a stage, you get a frame. And then, with $50,000 in debt already chained to your ankle, you enter the job market. And what does the job market give you? If you're lucky, a $55,000 starting salary. Let's pause right there, because that number already has a problem. The word before. Before taxes, before insurance deductions, before your 401k contribution gets pulled, before your state tax, before your FICA tax, before every single entity that has a legal claim on your paycheck, before you takes their cut. And so begins the degree trap. Here's the trap in its purest, most brutal form. You borrowed money to get a job. The job pays you just enough to make the monthly payment on the money you borrowed to get the job. And every year, if you work hard enough, perform well enough, and smile at the right people in the right meetings, your employer rewards you with a 3% raise. 3%. Let me say that again so it truly lands. 3%. The average annual raise for a salaried employee in the United States is 3%. The average annual inflation rate over the last decade has hovered between 3 and 4%. In 2022, it hit 8.5%. So not only are you not getting ahead, you are mathematically going backwards while being told by your manager in a performance review that you're doing a great job. The degree trap isn't just about the cost of college, it's about the compounding cost of a life spent on someone else's timetable in exchange for incremental raises that never, ever outpace the real cost of living. And it gets worse, much worse, because here is the core premise that we need to burn into your brain before we go any further. Your employer doesn't need you to be wealthy, they need you to be dependent. They need the paycheck to be just large enough that you show up on Monday, just large enough that you don't quit, just large enough that the mortgage gets paid and the car doesn't get repossessed, and you can take 1 vacation a year to recharge before giving them another 50 weeks of your life. And here's the mathematical ceiling that nobody talks about out loud. You have 24 hours in a day. That is the hard cap on your production as a W-2 employee. You cannot work 30 hours in a day. You cannot clone yourself. Your income at its absolute core is bounded by the physical limits of your body and your time, and no promotion, no matter how good, can break that ceiling. That's not a motivational speech. That's just physics. Okay, let's do some real math. And I want you to stay with me here, because this section is where most people's financial reality completely breaks down. Let's say you've climbed, You've worked hard, you've done everything right by society's rulebook, and now you're earning $150,000 a year, a salary that puts you in the top 10% of American earners, a salary that when you say it at a dinner party makes people nod with respect. You should feel rich, right? Let's actually look at that $150,000. Gross salary, $150,000. Federal income tax, 22 to 24%, minus $32,000. State income tax, average 5%, minus $7,500. FICA or Social Security, minus $9,300. Medicare tax, minus $2,175. Health insurance premiums, minus $6,000. 401k contribution, 6%, minus $9,000. Actual take-home pay, approximately $84,000 per year, approximately $7,000 per month. $7,000 per month. Now let's build the life that a $150,000 per year professional is expected to live by the same society that sold you the degree trap. Monthly expenses. Mortgage, median home at 7% rate, approximately $2,800 per month. Car payment, $1,100 per month. Car insurance, $250 per month. Groceries, $600 per month. Utilities plus internet plus phone, $350 per month. Childcare, if applicable, $1,500 per month. Subscriptions plus miscellaneous, $200 per month. Total monthly expenses, $7,200 per month. And that is how you become the Broke Life Premium member, earning a good salary and yet still living paycheck to paycheck. That is not a character flaw. That is the system working exactly as designed. And this is what I mean when I say the middle class is being taxed into poverty. Because here is the part that will make your blood boil, and it should. W-2 employee income is the single highest taxed income type in the entire United States tax code. Full stop. When you earn $1 as a W-2 employee, you pay federal income tax on that dollar, state income tax on that dollar, FICA or Social Security on that dollar, Medicare on that dollar. When a billionaire earns $1 through long-term capital gains, meaning an asset they own goes up in value, they pay a maximum federal rate of 20%. No FICA, no Medicare, no payroll tax. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is the literal tax code. It is written this way, and it has been written this way for decades because the tax code was written by people who owned assets, not people who worked for salaries. The rich didn't get rich by earning more. They got rich by changing the type of income they earn. But we'll come back to that in a moment, because first, I need to destroy one more illusion, the one that keeps most salaried professionals clinging to the system even when they know something is wrong. The retirement mirage. You've heard the pitch. Contribute to your 401k, and by the time you're 65, you'll have enough to retire comfortably. Let me show you what comfortably actually looks like. The average 401k balance for Americans aged 55 to 64, the people who are 10 years from retirement, is approximately $208,000. Using the standard 4% withdrawal rule, the rule that most financial planners use, that $208,000 produces $8,320 per year in retirement income. That's $693 per month from their entire career of 401k contributions. Add Social Security, which averages around $1,750 per month for a middle-income earner, and you have roughly $2,400 to live on in retirement. The retirement plan that was sold to an entire generation, the plan that millions of people are currently grinding 50-hour weeks to fund, does not produce enough money to retire on. And here's the cruelest part. By the time most people realize this, they are 58 years old. The prime working years? Gone. The prime investing years with time on your side for compounding? Gone. The math doesn't care about your intentions. It doesn't care about how hard you worked. It only responds to the strategy you chose. And for the vast majority of salaried employees, the strategy is one that was handed to them by the same system that benefits from their dependence on it. And now we get into the psychology, because the salary ceiling isn't just a tax problem, it's not just a math problem, it is a deeply psychological trap that gets tighter the more successful you become. Let me paint a picture. You've grinded for 12 years. You started at $55,000. You've clawed your way to $180,000. You got promoted. You earned it. You survived the layoffs, the politics, the soul-crushing performance reviews, the 6 a.m. emails from a VP that doesn't know your name. And with that $180,000, you did what every reasonable, hard-working American does. You rewarded yourself. You bought the truck. You know the one, the $72,000 F-150 that never goes off-road, the one that spends 98% of its life in a corporate parking lot and a school pickup line, the pavement princess. You deserve it, right? You worked hard.
You upgraded the house because your old house wasn't quite right for someone of your status, so you're in a $650,000 mortgage now. It's a great house. The kitchen is beautiful. You're paying $3,800 a month for it. You put the kids in private school because you went to a state school and you're not going to let your kids fall behind. That's $2,500 a month per kid. And here's what none of your colleagues will say out loud at the company holiday party. You are more financially trapped at $180,000 than you were at $55,000. This is lifestyle creep, and it is the silent destroyer of every aspiration you have ever had about financial freedom. Because here is what lifestyle creep does. It raises your minimum viable income in lockstep with your salary. Every raise you receive gets converted, almost immediately, into a new fixed monthly obligation. The car payment, the bigger mortgage, the club membership, the private tuition. And before long, your life has a price tag of $15,000 a month to maintain. And you need your next paycheck with a desperation that feels physical. Because if it doesn't arrive, the whole architecture collapses. That's not wealth. That is a performance of wealth. It is the most expensive costume ever made. And you are paying for it with something money cannot buy back. Your freedom, your options, your time. This is the dangerous illusion. The house is big, the car is expensive, the job title sounds impressive, but the actual net worth? Often negative or negligible, because everything was financed, everything was borrowed against future income that requires your continued physical presence in that cubicle, on those Zoom calls, at those 7 a.m. stand-ups, every single day, without interruption, for the next 20 years. And this is where the golden handcuffs click fully into place. A golden handcuff isn't a punishment. Nobody forces them on you. You put them on yourself. You chose the truck. You signed the mortgage. You enrolled the kids. And now, even if you hate your job, even if your boss is a nightmare, even if you are slowly losing yourself in the grind, you cannot leave. You have too much at stake, too much financed, too many monthly obligations that require that one specific paycheck from that one specific employer. Here's the stress math that nobody talks about. Higher salary, higher lifestyle, higher fixed expenses, higher risk of financial collapse if income stops, higher stress, not lower. The saddest conversations I have ever had about money are not with broke people. They're with high earners, doctors, lawyers, senior engineers, VPs, who are making $200,000 to $300,000 a year and wake up every Monday morning with the same dread as someone making $40,000. Because they know the handcuffs are on. They know they've traded their freedom for a lifestyle. And they are terrified, genuinely terrified of what happens if the income stops. That is not wealth. That is a high-income prison sentence. And I'm telling you this not to shame anyone who has been here. I'm telling you this because the first step to escaping is understanding exactly how the trap was built. Let me introduce you to the most important financial concept you were never taught in school: the gap. The gap is the space between what you earn and what you spend, and the entire game of building wealth, every single strategy that has ever worked in every era for every successful person, comes down to one discipline: widening that gap. not by grinding harder at your job, not by getting another promotion, but by managing what lives on both sides of the equation. Now, a salaried employee's instinct is to widen the gap by increasing income, work more, get promoted, ask for a raise. And while that's not wrong, it is the least efficient, most taxed, and most physically constrained method available. Because remember, you're already giving half of every additional dollar you earn to the government. Every dollar of overtime, every bonus, every raise, the IRS is first in line. The wealthy widen the gap differently. They do it on both sides simultaneously. They keep their lifestyle deliberately modest, not because they're cheap, but because they understand that a dollar saved on expenses is a full dollar, while a dollar earned is only 55 to 65 cents after tax. But more importantly, they do something that changes the game entirely. They take the gap, that space between income and expenses, and instead of letting it sit in a checking account slowly being eroded by inflation, they deploy it into assets. Assets. This word is everything. Let me break it down in the simplest possible terms. An asset is something you own that puts money into your pocket regardless of whether you showed up to work that day. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket every month. The $72,000 truck? Liability. Depreciates the moment you drive it off the lot, costs you insurance, maintenance, and a $1,400 a month payment. The $650,000 house you live in? Mostly a liability, in the sense that it costs you in taxes, maintenance, and interest. It may appreciate, but it doesn't produce income. A rental property you own that someone else pays rent on every month? Asset. Cash flows to you while you sleep. An index fund that grows and pays dividends? Asset. A business you own that operates with a management team? Asset. Let's run two scenarios, because this is where the math gets jaw-dropping. Character A gets the raises, upgrades the lifestyle, finances the truck, the house, the club membership. By year 20, earns $140,000 a year. Net worth? $180,000. Character B, same salary trajectory, but keeps a modest lifestyle, lives in a reasonable house, drives a used car, every month takes $1,500 from the gap and invests it in a diversified index fund portfolio. By year 20, at a historical average of 10% per year, that account is worth over $1 million. Not from a higher salary, not from a lucky investment, not from crypto or NFTs or anything complicated, from the disciplined, boring, consistent act of deploying the gap into assets that compound over time. And here is the concept that makes this exponential rather than linear. The assets begin to produce their own gap. In year 10, Character B's portfolio might be generating $30,000 to $40,000 per year in growth and dividends. That income doesn't require any of their time, it doesn't get taxed like W-2 income, and it gets fed back into the machine, buying more assets, producing more income, widening the gap further, without them lifting a finger. This is what wealthy people mean when they talk about passive income, not the Instagram version where someone sells a PDF course from their yacht, the actual version, income generated by assets you own that requires no additional time from you. And this is where we have to confront the most important realization of this entire video. You can never out-earn bad money habits if your income requires your physical presence. Read that again. No matter how high your salary climbs, if every dollar earned requires a corresponding hour of your time, and every dollar earned gets consumed by lifestyle obligations, you are on a treadmill, you're moving, you're tired, but you are not going anywhere. The escape from the salary ceiling isn't found in the salary, it's found in what you build beside it. All right, here's where we pivot, because I want to be clear about something. I am not telling you to quit your job tomorrow. I know that's the message a lot of financial influencers push. Quit the 9-to-5, build your empire. Your boss is stealing your dreams. And while there's some truth baked into that frustration, the cold reality is that most people cannot and should not walk away from their income without a replacement already in place. Because here is what your job actually is when you reframe it correctly. Your 9-to-5 is a funding mechanism. Every 2 weeks, your employer deposits capital into your account that you can use to buy assets. They just think they're paying you to work for them, and on the surface, they are. But underneath, you are using their money, their paycheck, to build your empire. That is the cheat code. Let me show you exactly how to build what I call the shadow portfolio. A shadow portfolio is a collection of income-producing assets that you build in parallel with your career, using your salary as the funding source, with the explicit goal of eventually replacing that salary entirely. Here's the framework. 3 buckets in order of simplicity. Bucket 1. Index funds, the automatic wealth engine. Step 1 is the simplest and most powerful act in personal finance. Automate your investment. Open a brokerage account, Fidelity, Vanguard, Schwab. Set up an automatic monthly transfer from your checking account into a low-cost index fund, the S&P 500, a total market fund, or a 3-fund portfolio if you want to get slightly more sophisticated. The amount matters less than the habit. Start with $200 a month if that's what you have. What you are doing is establishing the system, the automatic, emotionless, schedule-driven machine that buys assets every single month, whether the market is up, down, or sideways. Over time, you increase the contribution as your income grows, but critically, you do not increase your lifestyle in the same proportion. This is the discipline that separates the wealthy from the high-earning but broke. Bucket 2. Real estate. Cash flow plus appreciation plus tax advantages. Once you've built a foundation in the market, real estate is the most powerful leveraged wealth-building vehicle available to the average person. And I don't mean flipping houses. I don't mean becoming a full-time landlord. I mean acquiring one property at a time, using the bank's money, because real estate is one of the few investments where a lender will give you 80% of the purchase price at a locked-in rate. A single rental property generating $400 a month in net cash flow after mortgage, taxes, insurance, and maintenance produces $4,800 a year. Passively. That property also appreciates over time. It also provides significant tax deductions through depreciation, a concept that allows you to reduce your taxable income on paper even when the property is actually making you money in cash. And here's the exponential secret. When you own one rental property and manage it well, the equity and cash flow it generates helps you acquire the second, and the second helps fund the third. The snowball is real. Bucket 3. Equity in a business. Active income that doesn't require your hours. This one is the most advanced, and it requires the most important mindset shift. There is a difference between owning a job and owning a business. A freelancer who leaves their 9-to-5 to work for themselves, they often just own a job. They are the product. If they stop working, the income stops. A business owner who builds systems, processes, and teams, they own something that generates income whether or not they are personally present. That is equity. That is leverage. That is the third bucket. This doesn't mean you need to start a tech company. The most resilient small businesses are boring, unglamorous, and essential. Landscaping companies, cleaning services, vending machine routes, digital products, content channels like the one you're watching right now. What matters is the structure, systems that produce income without requiring your hourly input. Now, let me address the objection I know is forming in your head right now. This sounds great, but I don't have extra money to invest. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. I hear you, and the answer is start where you are, not where you wish you were. The gap doesn't have to be $1,500 a month on day one. It can be $50. It can be $100. What you are doing in the beginning is not primarily about the dollar amount. It is about rewiring your financial identity. Every dollar that goes into a brokerage account before it goes to a streaming subscription or a restaurant bill is a vote for the future version of yourself, the version that isn't handcuffed, the version that isn't dependent, the version that wakes up on a Monday morning with options. And here's how you find the money even when you think there is none. Audit your fixed monthly expenses, every single one. Cancel one subscription you don't use.
refinance something, drive the car you have for one more year instead of upgrading, take the brown bag lunch twice a week instead of the $18 salad bowl near the office. Each of those decisions, directed deliberately, is a brick in the foundation of your shadow portfolio. And importantly, stop grinding for your boss and start grinding for yourself. And this brings me to the final message of this video. Real wealth is not a number. Real wealth is options. It is the ability to say no to the job that is destroying your health. It is the ability to take a month off without financial terror. It is the ability to work because you want to, because the work is meaningful, not because the mortgage payment is due in 11 days and your entire financial structure depends on your continued physical presence at a desk. That is wealth without burnout, and it is available to you, not through a lottery ticket, not through a lucky investment, through the unglamorous, patient, and disciplined act of widening the gap and filling the buckets, every single month, year after year, until the income from your assets exceeds the cost of your life. The degree trap will tell you to stay in line. The tax code will punish you for earning more. The golden handcuffs will get heavier every year you let lifestyle creep run unchecked, and the retirement mirage will keep retreating on the horizon, always 20 more years away. Or, starting today, you use the paycheck for its true purpose. You build the shadow portfolio. You widen the gap. You acquire the assets. You stop performing wealth and start building it. The salary ceiling is real, but it only stops the people who never thought to look up. If this video shifted something for you, if even one piece of this landed differently than anything you've heard before, hit that subscribe button, because this channel is built for exactly one purpose: to give you the financial frameworks, the brutal math, and the honest conversation that nobody else is having. Every week, we break down the systems that keep ordinary people stuck, and more importantly, the strategies that genuinely work to get them unstuck. Next week, we're going deep on exactly how to build your first shadow portfolio from scratch, even if you have less than $500 to start with. You don't want to miss it. I'll see you there.